Welcome back to PPCM's Painful Truth. Today's guest, Leah Riegert.
Hi, Leah. Thank you so much.
Hi, it's so nice to meet you in person. I always obviously see you on our Facebook group, but
yeah, I mean, it's so nice when I connect, and then it's, meeting someone in person is so much, more of a special bond, whereas commenting is so impersonable, even though we do our best to show compassion.
yeah.
So Leah, I see your little boo-boo behind you. What's her name?
Yeah. Her name is Eloise.
So cute. And how old is she?
She's 2.5.
Okay, is she your PPCM baby?
She is the one and only.
Mm-hmm. So how old were you when you were diagnosed or experiencing your peripartum cardiomyopathy symptoms during pregnancy?
Yeah, I was 30.
Okay, and did your doctor diagnose you, the one that was treating you throughout your baby visits?
No, I was diagnosed by an ER physician. I experienced a lot of swelling during my pregnancy and a lot of shortness of breath during my pregnancy. Of course, it was my only pregnancy, so I didn't know it was abnormal.
Right.
But after I had her, I had noticed increasing difficulty breathing when I was laying down, and my husband urged me to go to an urgent care. He took one look at my vitals and just sent me back to the hospital where I gave birth to her. So I was diagnosed in the emergency room.
And what emergency hospital was that diagnosed
Bethesda
you?
North Hospital in Cincinnati.
Okay. All right. So you were diagnosed when your life was obviously already at a threat.
Yes.
And sorry, my eyes, I think I got makeup in it. Real reality. So, did you end up going back to your OBGYN, or did you have a midwife, or a birth keeper? And did you let him or her know that you were diagnosed as peripartum cardiomyopathy and that it could have been prevented during pregnancy?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the OBGYN group, one of them was in the hospital when I was diagnosed, and she actually came to the emergency room, and she was very much holding my hand, comforting me and whatnot. I had some difficulty returning to my primary OBGYN. And I'm not sure if I just had formed an emotional attachment to the one who was by my bedside during my diagnosis. But we had a discussion about that. And I'm not sure there was anything other than, the BNP test that they could have diagnosed me with, just because I was experiencing these quote unquote normal symptoms of pregnancy. So I did end up switching to the OBGYN who was with me by the bedside.
And
it was a difficult discussion with her.
Sure, absolutely. Which for me was just heart-wrenching experience after, with my cardiac death, and then to find out that recently, November 21st, 2021, a girl named Leah, actually, she died at the same hospital, same doctors, and they didn't listen to me after, it was just a very long process to just communicate. And that's really heartbreaking. So with your current OBGYN, well, thank goodness that she was your, your advocate at the time. At what month or how many weeks pregnant were you during your switch of OB?
So it was after I had given birth already, when I had made the decision to make that switch, just because I felt some sort of discomfort within myself going back to my previous OBGYN. So I made the decision to switch. I think it was the best decision I had ever made. The first appointment I had with her, she sat down with me and she said, I haven't seen you since you were in the ER. I didn't, I learned from your chart that you had a stroke afterward. I learned all of these things from you. Tell me, what your needs are. She's very, she's kind of militant in a way. So she's like, okay, you need your mammogram. We need to do a vaginal ultrasound on you. I mean, she is very much on it, and I can just feel the amount that she cares for me, which is everything, right? I think that everyone should get that feeling from their physicians.
Yeah, absolutely. We always say a good one is the one that cares. And we hope that they have common sense as well as intuition, along with textbook, education and training. You have every right to feel about your gynecologist prior to, you after, to getting diagnosed.
Yeah.
What I don't know, in my mind, I always feel like if there is an OBGYN that's out there and they don't have the awareness, because that's obviously what she didn't have with you. And it's not necessarily, I want to say it is their fault, but then again, maybe they were not trained and educated. And it seems like
Yeah.
that's where the issue is, which relies on women who have survived this, like you and myself, to, even though it's hard on us, it's not about us anymore. It is, but it's more or less about your little girl that's
Yeah.
behind you. It's about my son, who is 5 years old, who might meet a little girl like your little girl, and they grow up and they want to have a baby themselves. And so the fact that we in 2022 are women that are for the first time showing true documentation of that this disease is serious and that it is preventable during pregnancy
Yeah.
with the BNP test, which why the BNP test is not mandatory, is our fight. And we hope for, as American women, that the maternal mortality death rate severely diminishes, since there are proven preventions. And so
Yes.
you and I talking about this today really, opens the eyes of, women who are currently pregnant, that are suffering and they don't know why, and they're sent home with quote unquote normal pregnancy.
Yeah.
I was considered a normal pregnancy. Everything was about normal. I was swollen. I had every symptom under the sun of PPCM. And I had the infection. And 3 months later, after my son, I had my times of death called. So I was not normal. I was not
No.
healthy as much as they want to convince me that I was. Me having a death experience says otherwise. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what they say on their medical records, as most lawyers would say. It's not what happened to you, it's what they say on their medical records, which were very different from mine. So I don't know
Mhm.
if, like, most women experience this during pregnancy, the fact that you were diagnosed after you gave birth, just like me, swollen, just like I was, and feeling like I don't want to go there with my gynecologist because she failed me in something with something so preventable, but the lack of her training and education is
Yeah.
almost cost me my life.
Yeah.
That needs to be said to her because she works with other women and other babies in their belly, and she doesn't have awareness. And so I think it would be like kind of like an honor in a sense to women who are no longer with us today, or babies that have died, to say to this woman, if you gave this test mandatory in your practice, you would have been able to catch me and probably other women because it's very common, the statistics. And
Yeah.
the statistics that we are provided are basically false because,
Yeah.
in a sense, because the test is not mandatory. So if the test isn't mandatory and women are not being diagnosed, then those numbers are not real. It's
Yeah.
only the ones that they know of, but not the ones that they don't know of, which is more
Yeah.
common than not.
Absolutely.
So with your experience and having, this scare, how did they treat you once they finally diagnosed you?
So the ER physician immediately admitted me to the ICU. I was given my first echocardiogram in the emergency room. I received excellent care, in my opinion. They immediately put me on all sorts of heart medications, which were changed and modified as time went on. And I had this specific physician in the ICU. Her name was Dr. Suarez. And she, kind of like my OBGYN now, was very militant. She made sure that I was receiving the best possible care. Um, she recommended a cardiologist who came to see me in the hospital every single day that I was there, sometimes a couple of times a day, until I was discharged. Unfortunately, the day after I was discharged, I had a stroke. The clot came from my heart, but all of the echocardiograms they did in the hospital, they didn't identify a clot. So the clot had formed between my discharge and the stroke, unfortunately. But even my stroke care was excellent too. So I think that the care I received after my diagnosis was monumental in my recovery.
Mm-hmm.
My ejection fraction at diagnosis was 20, and within 2 months I was at 50, which is incredible. So I do think that the care I received was monumental in my treatment.
Absolutely. I mean, it literally it saved your life. These
Yes.
doctors, and they were not just, you know, I mean, to having that emotional support as well is so important. You know, what would you say, like, during this? Who was your biggest support during your everything?
My husband and my family were my biggest support.
Mm-hmm.
My husband refused to leave the hospital. I had to beg him to go see our newborn daughter, who was staying with my in-laws afterward. I told him that, she at least needs to see one of her parents.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and it just the support I received even after my discharge was amazing too. He got every nighttime feeding. He got every nighttime changing because the doctors told him how important it was for me to rest. My mother came over every day until I went back to work. They were truly amazing. And again, I think that was a crucial part of my overall recovery process.
And I think that, like, just the amount of support, even like our group site, support is really helpful, like just coping with all of the trauma that we've gone through, not just physically, but just like how to like get back to our normal state of our everyday with having to like monitor now medication when we've never been on medication, monitor, if we were breastfeeding, can we breastfeed during the medication?
And what's interesting is I don't know that we ever kind of get to our baseline emotional state, right? I was sick a couple of weeks ago, and obviously when you're ill, your heart rate elevates, and that's all I noticed, just because I think just people diagnosed with peripartum cardiomyopathy in general, we are so hyper focused to what our heart is doing. And I'm not sure that it's ever going to completely go away.
Yeah, I know. It's one of those things where it's completely endless with coping and just getting through those moments that are more challenging than some days are good, some days are harder, and it's one of those days when you're feeling the heart palpitation or you're feeling something that's a little off. I don't know, like I always try to be strong, in a sense where I don't show when I'm feeling something off until like I'm about to faint. That's just who I am, and I don't really ever express that either, which I'm working on a little more, that it's okay to speak up. People, I always had like a feeling like I don't want people thinking that I'm a hypochondriac or whatnot, and we can put a smile on our face and wear makeup and nobody would ever know what we're feeling in the inside. But the reality is that we experienced a maternal mortality, life and death experience, and has completely rerouted our dreams, a little bit. How
It's
has
interesting you say that, because I feel like I'm the opposite. I work at 2 physician offices as a psychologist, and I have formed really close bonds with them. So if I'm not feeling right, they're like, do you want an EKG? And I am on such, my cardiologist is amazing, and I have his personal cell phone number. So if I'm experiencing anything crazy, I will call the office, or even I have not shot him a text yet, just because I tell him all the time, I'm like, this is not good boundaries for patient doctors, but like I'll call the office and I'll say, I experienced an elevated heart rate. I know I was sick. I experienced some palpitations. Do I need to do anything, or do you think that I should just monitor for now? Just because we almost died, right? And I look at my daughter every day, and if I'm experiencing something that feels off to a greater extent, I am going to make those phone calls.
Hold on a second. Oh, I'm so sorry. Hold on. When was your heart anniversary? What month?
June 29th, and my stroke anniversary was July 4th. So just around that week period, and
Right.
certainly a couple of weeks before then, I
Right.
do notice a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I hope with time that that will reduce, because it's such a fun time of year, right? Celebrating my daughter's birthday, 4th of July, and everything that that brings. But it's certainly something to not only be aware of, but to recognize that I'm going to need to, reflect on it, just to kind of bring it to the surface, and to just implement so much more self-care into to me during those times, right? Just because my body is going to continue to remember it.
Yeah, exactly. Um, like for me around the time I've been starting to do that now more often, as I have beautiful flowers in my room, and I put them, with my beautiful, vase, my mother's vase, and I have, I'll buy myself like, something that's like healing. Like I just bought like my beautiful crystals.
Yeah,
I'll buy myself something that would be like something healing to me, getting my nails done, my getting a pedicure, a manicure, and watching my show while I get it done,
yeah.
um, just like little things of being like kind to yourself. Like this was my heart anniversary present to myself.
Yeah.
It's always Thanksgiving for me. For you, it's 4th of July.
Hmm.
Um, I had cardiac death on November 25th. So,
Yeah.
um, every Thanksgiving, it's like bittersweet. It's
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
those things where,
Actually,
like,
this year, I think someone from our group gave me the idea. Um, I ended up sending cookies to both of the hospitals who took care of me, just
mhm,
because I don't know. I felt like it wasn't enough to take care of myself during that time. I felt this need to express my gratitude for the excellent care I received. I mean, I know that there are so many women with peripartum cardiomyopathy who present to the ER and the doctors say, it's anxiety, go home, you'll be fine, right? And
yeah,
that wasn't my experience. And so
you're so lucky.
I know. I ended up writing every doctor that I could remember who took care of me a letter, just telling them, thank you so much. And I sent a picture of my family to them. Like, this is what you did, because I don't think that they get that enough either.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you hear these stories all the time when people just aren't taken seriously when they are essentially dying. And the ER physician told me, after the diagnosis, I said I was going to wait until tomorrow to call my OB's office, and he said, if you would have waited until tomorrow, you would have drowned in the meantime. Your lungs were just filled with fluid. And just that really hit home of, especially after birth, our sole focus is on the baby, right? And for good reason. They are so fragile, they're so little, they're so cute, and we don't have an appointment scheduled for 6 weeks, really. Like, it's insane to me that,
Yeah.
you know, because we just went through major trauma giving birth, and our checkup isn't for 6 weeks. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And, you did mention, something. Hey, babe.
Hi.
That's my husband.
Don't mind me.
He's my hero, actually. He saved my life when you were talking about just now, women that are, being left. He saved my life literally with the baby next
Yeah.
to me.
Same
Um,
same with mine. Our husbands are amazing, it sounds like.
yeah, no, I mean, he's truly like a gem and a half, because I don't
Yeah.
know too many men that would know what to do. And, I had a stroke in the bed with the baby, and so he knew to give me
You had a
CPR.
stroke as well?
Yeah. I
I
did.
did not know that. Yeah,
I had
my
a
husband was
it's
the same
recorded.
way. He noticed the right side of my face drooping. He immediately called 911.
Hmm.
He's like, I just knew something wasn't right. I didn't know what that was. And
Hmm.
he's the one who packed me up that Sunday and said, we're going to urgent care. You sound like you were sleeping while you were pregnant. And I don't think that that's right. And it's just incredible how the men in our lives are the ones who like urged us to go or made those phone calls when we couldn't do it, because just kind of that lack of medical care was there.
Yeah. I mean, we depend on our medical care, but really it was our
Hmm.
husbands that,
Yeah.
the men that make the phone call. I mean, we're at this
Yes.
point, we're having a stroke. Like
Yeah.
we can't even
Right.
like
We
put
we
two
can't
thoughts
make any
together.
phone calls.
Yeah. Um, my I had, I don't know if it was like what was recorded was my seizure. Uh,
Mm.
Um, but I was definitely at that point, I was choking on all that fluid,
Yeah.
and it was bad. It was really
Yeah.
bad. But luckily enough, I survived. I lived, and luckily enough, you survived and lived, and you look beautiful. It does not look like that you had, a stroke. And
Same.
I know. I mean, we're so blessed in so many
Yes.
ways, because um this could have easily have gone really bad for us. I mean, we could
Yes.
have been a burden to our families by
Yes.
being crippled in a sense, brain dead.
Something my husband said really hit home for me. A couple of months after all this happened, I wanted to kind of decompress with him, what he went through during those times.
Yeah.
And I said, did you ever think I was going to die? Because I did. And he said, I knew you weren't going to die. He said, I didn't think that the doctors would let you die. But what I didn't know is if I was going to get the version of you back that I love so much.
Mm,
Um, and
that's
because
very
when I had my stroke, um, before they air cared me to the hospital downtown, I tried to say, I love you. I tried to, provide some comfort because, all I saw was horror on his face. And all that came out was gibberish, which provided even more horror for him. And that's something that I will never forget. And I talked to him about that. And he said, I don't remember making any sort of face. And I said, I could see how scared you were in those moments.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of heartbreaking. Like you said, before, we provide so much on our medical care, and our loved ones are the ones who essentially made those calls, and they're the ones who are scared out of their minds because at that moment they can do nothing to help with our heart conditions. They can do nothing to help with our stroke, and they are just kind of left in this awful sort of waiting
Vulnerable
game that
state.
we're playing as well.
Right. It's all a very vulnerable position to
Yes.
be in. I mean, whether you're a mom watching your daughter, a husband watching your wife, and
Mhm.
you just have a baby, and um, it's a lack of control when you don't have your
Yes.
health. And
Yes.
you made a very profound statement. My father actually, he passed away 18 months after my mom, 4 months after my heart surgery. But when he had a stroke about 15, 17 years ago, the doctor gave him back to us, to my family. And he wasn't the same. The dad and
Yeah.
my mom, who she loved since she was a teenager, maybe even 14 years old, the things that she loved about him were out the window. His
Yeah.
they just they didn't exist in him. They would come out every once in a while, but it was a struggle because, and so for your husband to make that statement, like, I knew you were going to die, but I didn't know if I was going to get the same you, you know, that
Yeah.
I understand. I mean,
Yeah.
really understand. Like,
The
it's
parallels are
profound.
very similar. We were high school sweethearts. We've been together since we were 16, so we've been through
So you,
everything with each other. So
that was
we
my
know the
parents,
ins and outs of each other more than, I mean,
your own
he knows
parents.
me better than anyone, right? And for him to make that comment, I mean, I immediately started crying, right? I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I'm
just
choked up
to
with
like
hearing it.
hear some of his fears. It wasn't that he thought I wasn't going to be around, but he didn't know if I was going to be the same, because he said, you know, but one of the reasons why I love you so much is because I knew you were going to be the best mom, and I didn't know if you were going to be able to care for yourself, let alone to hold our daughter one day.
Absolutely. And you know, the fact that, you know, I hear a lot of relationships that I have been interviewing where you guys are high school sweethearts. You
Mhm.
know, there's another PPCM survivor, Miranda, and her husband. They've been in love since 13 years old, something like that, 12.
Yeah.
And now they have 3 children. And so he spoke and did an interview as well with, you know, with my husband, and um, it was profound. You know, the men, you know, when they just even 5 words of them speaking is, you automatically, it's like this disease, you really get a grasp that it really just affects the entire family. You know,
Yeah.
it's not just the woman who is literally dying with a baby and giving life. It's the after effect, you know,
Yeah.
what the people around us have to, you know, cope with as well. And that was very profound for your husband to say. And I find, you know, to me, you know, it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to actually intellectually, completely on every level understand that statement. And if you
Yeah.
ever have known somebody that has had a stroke or dementia,
Mhm.
Alzheimer's, um, you know, a lot of people can relate. And that was, you know, I'm sure he would love you any way you were, just like my mom,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
with my father until, like, you know, the very, very bitter end. But yeah, it's definitely, when you're sick, you aren't the same. Me personally, I I had a stroke. It didn't affect me where I'm brain dead or I have issues, but it has affected me. My
Mhm.
memory is not like how it was.
Oh,
My
yeah. Yeah.
short term, constantly, where's my earbuds? Where's my glasses? Where's my keys?
What's that word I'm trying to think of, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, I still have on my keychain from my bat mitzvah. My mom got me this charm from Tiffany's in New York City, and I've had it like since I was 13 years old. I've never lost my keys ever. But like just like the other day, like I don't know, like misplaced it because
Yeah.
everything always has its place. But
Yes.
there's I literally, I'm like, I think I'm losing it. Like I think I left my brain like somewhere, like where um when I rely on it so
Yeah.
much, and
Yeah.
I'm even with my, you know, with my company, aside from my nonprofit, it's like, you know, I'm not as sharp. And when I
Yeah.
came out of the coma, it took me a while. It took me a while to remember,
Mhm.
wait a minute, I did this for almost 18 years. working on movies and television in the industry.
Yeah.
And I can't, and it had to come back to me. And I was still, producers and location managers, they still were like, you're the rock star, you're the hero location. But like, even because I was so good, but I'm not as, I'm okay. I'm good, but I'm not what I was, even though I'm still rocking it. I know I'm not that person. I know
And it's so interesting at just hearing you speak, because my whole right side was affected at first. I had to relearn how to use a fork. I had to relearn how to walk, and it took months for me to, and with a lot of physical therapy. Thank goodness for those therapists.
Yeah.
It took so much effort to for my brain to tell my foot to pick up when you walk. And there was a time, because my mother and I and my daughter would go for walks every day. So at first we would just go around the cul-de-sac, and then we would go around the cul-de-sac across the street, and then we would go down to the stop sign, and so on and so forth, until we finally made it around the block. And there was one moment when I walked around the block and I didn't have to think for me to pick my foot up. And it went in my brain too, right? So I was always a fast talker. I'm very quick, on my feet and that sort of thing. And that all kind of went out the window. So doctor's appointments immediately after, I relied on my husband to speak for me, which was something he was not used to, because from what I'm gathering, very much like you, I speak my mind. I'm probably the first to talk, right? And for him to have to answer for me was not only a very difficult experience for me, but it was for him too, because he's like, honey, like, do you not want to answer that? And it took a good 3 months before I didn't have to think about what I wanted to say before I said it. And there are still times when I think like, okay, like how do I phrase that again? And it's so frustrating, right? I feel like I am like 95% there, but I'm just not, I'm not at 100 yet. And I don't know if I'll ever be at that 100, but honestly, getting to 95%, it could have been so much worse, right? So much worse. The only true deficit I have from my stroke is my handwriting. I used to have the most beautiful handwriting, and that has gone out the window, which is, very much okay with me, right?
Well, I don't know if this happens to you, but when I hold a pen now, or even like if I do dishes, or if I make Liam his lunch or something, and I'm holding something a little too long for a second, my hands curl. Do your hands curl? So I have to like literally like press them flat, and I don't really talk about it too much, but like I'll like rub my hand, and
You kind of have to do those exercises, right? If I don't do my exercises on a regular basis, I notice it pretty profoundly. And what's interesting too is a couple of months after my stroke, I had noticed that the right side of my body was kind of going numb again.
That's my left side.
Yeah, obviously we freaked out. We went back to the emergency room, and the emergency room doctor who actually treated my stroke, she said, if your blood pressure changes pretty dramatically, if you drink too much, if you are too cold for too long, and she listed all of these things. She said, your body remembers the stroke, and you will start experiencing some of those stroke-like symptoms, which I had no idea. So every time like I experience those, which thank goodness are very rare, I, say my name. My name is Leah Riegert. I was born on January 13th. And just to like, am I smiling? Right. Just to make sure like I am okay. So, I mean, even though I am so far past my stroke and my, diagnoses, it still comes up with so much greater frequency than I would like it to, right? And I just hope that, the further out I get, those occasions come further and fewer between.
Yeah, and I think that if we condition ourselves, I believe that we can overcome and fully recover.
Yes.
For me, my heart rate was, my EF% was 10%. And so
Wow.
I got in that pool, and I wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that I kept my EF% up to, like, when I came out of the cardiac arrest, my heart went immediately back up into 60%. And then,
Wow.
yeah, so it goes to show you that once the infection was cured and the fluid was removed and I was no longer suffocated by my fluid and crushing my heart, I actually started to come back, and
Yeah.
but they put a defibrillator, and that defibrillator I was allergic to, and it caused all these, complications, and I did have deaths. So I was pronounced over 30 minutes each cardiac arrest. My heart completely stopped.
Oh my
That's why I had to
gosh.
be frozen and put into a coma. But once I came out and I realized this, I knew I immediately needed to get in the water. And I'm a June baby, and I don't, I know that, like, for the water for me would be, when I had the kidney failure before my heart failed, it would be less impact on my back and my feet and my ankles. And, I would get the foam weights. So I would lift myself up, less on my heart, but keep my body moving and just swim
Wow.
and get
Yeah.
into the water aerobics. And I did it. And then I would bring my baby with me. I started him at, like, maybe, I think it was 5 months. He was 6 months old. And I put him in swim class with me, but I would swim with him because I knew that I couldn't go back to my workout class right away until, like, I conditioned my heart that it was
Yeah.
okay to pump.
Yes.
And I didn't
Yes.
want to be hard on, like, and go into my running mode. And, because I used to run, like, every hike in Los Angeles and the beach.
Yeah.
Like, I used to be a big hiker by myself, put my earbuds in and just chuck, and run. Sometimes I'd even do a triple, and go the
Yeah.
hard way. I was very healthy, but I knew I couldn't, I would not be able to do that yet. So once I found the routine of keeping my rhythm of my heart and my health, and, sometimes, like, when you swim, you could just kind of, like, go under the water and just kind of, like, for even just a minute, you can have your whole life pass through your mind, literally.
Yeah.
And I just felt like it was like a coping mechanism for me.
Mhm.
So, I gravitated to that, which I would love one day. I think, I was back in the day, I used to love to surf, but I've yet to have done that in, like, probably 10 years. One, because we have really big, like, I don't know, I'm a little afraid of the Pacific waters lately, but it's different waves than Florida. But, like, I would hope to one day, I would like to get skis back on my feet and, like, be active again, like the way I was.
Yeah. And it's so interesting that you say that, because working out is very much my main coping mechanism too. So after my heart diagnosis, when my cardiologist said, I don't want you to get your heart rate above 130 for the foreseeable future, I said, wait, like, I do hit workouts, I run, like, and you don't want me to get my heart rate above 130? He's like, no, just for the sake of your life, which I understood and appreciated. But I think that that made my mental health suffer over those next few months before he kind of gave me the green light, before my EF reached 50% after those
Mm-hmm.
2 months. And he said,
Mm-hmm.
you can at least get your heart rate a little bit higher. And it wasn't for another year until I had a stress test, until he gave me the green light to run. And oh my gosh, what a difference that
Difference.
made, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, when you loved, yeah, you're like me, you love and enjoy like working out, and like you like
Yes.
that, like when you don't, you do get depressed, like
Yes.
that's how I was very much. But I also, like you, as your doctor told you and my doctor told me, don't push it. You don't
Yeah.
have your heart rate go. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like, how am I going to do that? And that's when I knew to get into the water with the foam weights, because I knew it would not be less impacted on my heart, but I'd
Yeah.
start. And actually, I think I remember I was so weak, very weak and swollen still, because I blew up. Um, I walked back and forth in the
Yeah.
shallow end just to
Yeah.
get my heart ready
Just
and
to get
prepared.
some movement, right?
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of women are afraid to, like, where
Yeah.
do you start when you have a stroke, a seizure, cardiac arrest, death, maternal mortality? It's like they tell you not to work out, but you've been healthy and worked out your whole life.
Yeah.
That was a big change for me. That was definitely a change for me, which is as it was for you. Which I can see that, like, if like right now, like what is your daily workout? Do you do you run, or do you take a class?
So since the pandemic started, I downloaded the Beachbody app. So I love Insanity. I just love Shanti. He's just amazing.
I'll have
But
to
lately
try.
I've been doing bar blend. I think I'm on like week 5 or 6 of it right now, but I love it so much. Just the energy level, the positivity. And what's even more amazing is my daughter loves to work out too. Like she made these like faux weights, right? So she has like these little magnetic packs. So she got 2 sticks and 4 balls, and she has these little weights. So like while I'm doing
So
my
cute.
weights and squats, like she's over here working out too, which I think is just such
Adorable.
a beautiful thing to teach her that, we love our bodies so much. We want to keep them healthy and strong. And of course, I'll put on a Disney movie over in the corner of the room, but she's always coming over and doing these workouts with me, which I think is just so much fun that I can show her in real time that because we want to take care of ourselves and because we love our bodies, that this is what we do to help them. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I've really been enjoying that.
Yeah, I do as well. Liam, I would like to work with him more, and but he like does the downward dog with me, and
Oh yeah.
he'll sit there and he'll do his moments, and he'll know, like, to have a child at 2 know yoga,
Yeah.
and to be aware of that. I discovered it, later in life,
Same.
but imagine if it was like if I discovered it at 2, and now he's 5, and he, he internalizes that. When you mentioned bar, for me, I have been, I'm going to actually pitch right now. Grace was my instructor for over 10 years doing rocking model body workout. So if you haven't heard of it, we have a bar, a ball, and
Hold
we
on,
incorporate.
Lindsay. I'm so sorry. My daughter just tried to go potty. Hold on.
Okay,
Okay. Sorry about that.
that's okay. So what I love in my workout that I've been doing for about 11 years, on on the side, I gravitated to a group and to my instructor. Her name is Grace, and she does rock and model body workout. It incorporates Pilates, yoga. We have a bar, a ball, like wrap weights, and a magic circle. I don't know if you've ever done a magic circle yet.
No.
You can get it on Amazon, but it's the same workout, same routine. I've done it for, like I said, over a decade. So I know the routine in my head. I know it.
Yeah.
I could do it. I did even with recently, just to kind of get me out of my funk. I just called Grace and I was like, can you come here? And I was like, and she did come here and she did it with me. And then we started to do a Zoom together workout, and we did it like twice or three times a week. And now I'm just like, I realize I could do it on my own. I'd like to record our Zoom, even though I've been doing it for 11 years. She just has that energy.
Yeah.
And but I love the routine. I mean, it really like molds your body. She like knows how to mold your body like clay, you know, and I went back to her class because I was always 105 pounds. When I got pregnant and gave birth, I was over almost 200 pounds of fluid.
Yeah,
And
just from all the fluid.
Yeah. And when I went back, I was like almost 170. And I was like, she looked at me and was like, what the? And I'm like, you know, and I couldn't even believe it. I felt like I was lifting a sack of potatoes. Like I was like, this is my body and I can't even lift. Whereas I used to be in the front and like energetic and like thought I was going to give delivery like right on rock model body workout floor, you know, with my girls, because there were other pregnant women around me. And I just knew there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
But when I went back and I worked and I did it, my body was, you know, adjusting, you know, going back to the way it was, you know. I mean, it's amazing how our bodies and the functions of how our bodies really do heal itself. It really can.
Yeah.
Our mind.
And it's so amazing how our bodies just kind of learn to heal themselves. I got a cardiac MRI after I had my stroke, just to make sure that there were no other clots in there. And there was some scarring that showed on my heart. So when my heart got to 50%, my cardiologist was so thrilled. And he said, Leah, we are at 50%. It's not normal. It's considered low normal. This is as good as it is going to get. And I'm thrilled with it. You should be thrilled with it. We are good. And at my latest echo, I had last May, so I'm due for another one in a couple of months.
Yeah, me too.
My EF was at 60, which is, you know, it was
amazing.
So unexpected.
You're healed.
Right?
Yeah.
Because my heart knew how to heal itself with the medications, you know, with the nutrition I'm giving my body, with the stress management, and that is, it's amazing just that our bodies know how to heal themselves, even with scarring.
I know, and I have a lot of scar tissue in my body. Unfortunately, mine is really bad, like because of the implant and the removal, and from all of that. But yes, did the MRI contrast? Did you have an adverse reaction to that, or how did you?
I did not. The MRI was just painful in other ways. So they kept me in there. It was almost 3 hours of just kind of breathe, hold, breathe, you know, some music kind of playing in the interim. And just
were you in that? Were you in? I was in that big incubator type of thing.
Yeah.
And then they have the contrast going through your veins.
Yeah.
That
And it
that
makes you feel like you peed your pants, but you didn't. And
right. And
so
your
mine,
veins
I
burn.
didn't have any adverse reaction. It was
That's
just
good.
painfully long, painfully slow. And I just couldn't help being in my head of, now what is this going to show? Right. What's the next tragedy that's going to happen within this next week? Thank goodness it was all good news, you know, besides the scarring. But at that point, I think I was 5 days out from my diagnosis, maybe 6 days, and my EF went from 20 to 43. So I knew that we were headed in the right
In the right
direction, which
direction.
it was just so relieving, because when
Yeah.
I asked my cardiologist initially my prognosis, he said, I don't know. I said,
Mhm.
what do you mean you don't know?
Right.
And he said it's dependent on so many variables, and if your body responds to the medication we're giving it. So I was just so relieved afterward.
Yeah, I mean, it's when, like I said, like it's amazing how, you know, our heart is one big muscle. And so,
Mhm.
you know, when my body feels tight, you know, my heart feels tight, you know, my chest feels tight. That's when you know to, like, you know, stretch, work out and things like that. But it's scary because we can't see the heart unless we
Yeah.
have like an x-ray. So
Yes.
we don't know. Did your heart weakened or enlarge? Because I'm just curious. We had a somewhat like the fluid, you had somewhat of the similar. Did you what was that for you?
I I know
Enlarged or
it was
weakened?
enlarged. I don't think it was to the point where it was enlarged where I had a lot of other issues, like with my valves and that sort of thing. I
Mm-hmm.
think it was more weakened, um, but I don't really know that for sure. Actually, I want to say it was a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Like I think when the pressure of all that fluid, because you said you were very swollen.
Yeah. And
So
what's interesting with
it
the
like
swelling is when
suffocates
I
it.
was pregnant, or the last month or two of my pregnancy, I could only fit into 2 pairs of shoes, right? Just because of how large my feet
Yeah,
were.
I couldn't.
Um,
I know. It was
which my husband and
awful.
I were just, you know, we laughed
I
about,
remember
right?
that.
I would put on
Yeah.
like these big compression stockings just to, like, you know, fit my sausage size feet into like these itty bitty pair of shoes. And after I gave birth, my ankles looked great again. I could fit into all of my shoes. And in the evenings, because my baby was a fantastic sleeper, in the evenings, I would have to use the restroom so many times throughout the night,
Yeah.
not because, you know, the baby woke me up, but because my body was desperately trying to get rid of all of that fluid, because,
I remember
you
that.
know,
Me
my
too.
body was trying to kind of autocorrect, but it wasn't enough, right?
Yeah, it's almost like, you know, our bodies can definitely let us know when there's something wrong, and it can also heal when there's something wrong, you know, it wants to heal itself. But um for me, at one point, I literally, well, I was dying, but I
Yeah.
literally knew that my body was like fought and fought and fought and fought until it couldn't even like
Yeah.
fight anymore.
Yeah.
But like,
There is a point of like no return, right?
yeah. But I do remember a lot of the, you know, going to the bathroom, like peeing, like my body just like trying to like get all that fluid out.
Yeah.
I was drinking about a case of water like within like just an hour. You know, I
Yeah.
was like just drinking and then throwing the grabbing another one, and then, you know, I was so thirsty. Like I couldn't get my thirst, like the quenched thirst, and I was probably, I mean, I was already full of fluid and it was producing fluid, but I could have even been drowning myself because I was so thirsty and I just couldn't
Yeah.
stop drinking. And then of course that comes with, so it really, I remember that. I remember the bathroom going after Liam was born, that it got progressively worse for me. That was good that it didn't after, I think because you were probably already on a beta blocker and you were already on medication.
No, I
No?
wasn't at that point.
Wow. Because my ankles got so worse after giving birth.
Yeah, and that's my cardiologist who I
Can you put my
ended up
socks on?
keeping, who I love dearly, and I've said this to his face. He came in the room after the very militant ICU doctor kind of directed him in my room, and he said, "You must have a family history of heart failure." I said, "No, I don't." "Okay, you must smoke, right?" "Never smoked." "Do you drink?" "About a glass of wine a week." He's like, "Okay." He's like, "Let me see your ankles." And they looked okay. He's like, "Huh, okay." And I said, "What?" And he said, "This doesn't make any sense to me." And I remember looking at him dead in the eye and I said, "This is going to have to make sense to you because this makes no sense to me." And he's like, "Fair enough." He's like, "I'm going to figure this out. We're going to try our damnedest to get you better and to get you out of this hospital and to where you can take care of your baby." And that was the most frustrating conversation I had throughout my hospitalization because, I expected them to come up with some sort of clear answer, right? And they couldn't. I actually am getting, I have a genetic counseling appointment in a couple of weeks, just because, if there was something that genetically caused this, I need to know for the sake of my daughter, right? I don't think it would change my treatment necessarily, but, I still find myself kind of searching for the why, because I was so healthy and, I worked out every day and all these things that should be protectors from this. And there might not be a reason. And if I don't have any genetic factors, which honestly I hope I don't, I'm just gonna have to kind of live with that. I was just kind of one of the random unlucky ones. But it's frustrating not to have the why, right? And for your doctors to be confused. I got just so frustrated with that.
Yeah. Interesting that you mentioned the genetic test. So I'm actually curious of that as well. I do have cardiomyopathy in my family. Myself, I've never had a heart problem ever. My mom said I'm like ever. I'm very healthy, but it does run in my family, and I have a few, biopsies to show that. But I am going to get my genetic test done.
Yeah.
Even with excellent insurance, it was like $1,000 out of pocket. But
Really?
I think that I can now, I pay, with my insurance. It's so good but I had the best insurance, but it's still, I don't know. I didn't, for some reason, I didn't do it right away, but it was offered. Now, my passion and my goals, and part of the goal of why I'm creating this docuseries is because there is a diagnosis test during pregnancy that Dr. James Fett from the IPAC Research Lab has talked about in the past. And talking with women outside of America, they have this test. they are diagnosed during pregnancy. Women in America are not diagnosed during pregnancy. They are not provided this test. And he mentions it a lot, and I mention it pretty much every time in an interview because I want people to know this blood test. And it's two. But they call it a kit and an instrument, and it's the SFLT-1, which is the cardiotoxic fluid. -1 is genetic. So it's already in the diagnosis kit during pregnancy. The PIGF is the placental growth factor. Those two blood testings together will determine genetic cardiomyopathy, toxic fluid, and how the placental growth happens. I tried getting these girls, these women that are coming, young women that are coming to me that are pregnant and that are suffering. And I'm saying, why aren't these hospitals giving it to you? Why aren't they, you went to 7 hospitals in 4 days. That's a lot. And this girl was fighting. And I'm like, they need to give the SFLT1 and the PIGF. And I'm telling these nurses, and they're one's in Texas and one's in like Georgia. And I'm making all these calls, and I'm literally like so confused why they're not giving this test. So I called the company. I called the actual company with the kit and instruments of these diagnoses, and it is not approved, FDA approved in the United States of America, which is why one of the richest countries, which is America, has one of the highest death rates because we don't have that diagnosis. And here, I told Dr. Fett, Dr. Fett's telling me in a message, and I'm like, he's like, make sure she gets that. And I'm like, I don't think you're understanding. I have talked to the main company, multiple reps. It is not approved in America. And he didn't believe me. It was like I was telling him something that was foreign, but he mainly, works with Haiti and different areas. So they have access to the diagnosis, but we have the BNP test. Yeah. Which is cardiology.
And which is so frustrating too.
But OBGYN has the other one.
Because the BNP test isn't even used. The first time that they ran my BNP was when I was in the emergency room when I was diagnosed. Right. And I didn't know what that meant.
This needs to change.
And they said some normals between 1 and 100. And I said, okay, what's mine? And they said we couldn't read it. Right. Because ours cuts off at 5,000. And when I left the hospital, I said, okay, what's mine now? It's got to be like 50, 60. And they said, well, we can read it now. And I said, okay, so what is it? And they're like, well, it's 4,990. I said, okay, so you can barely read it now. And they're like, yeah. And it wasn't until a month later, I think, when I went to the doctor, when it was like at like 67 or something like that. And it's just crazy to me too, when pregnant women are coming in with these complaints, shortness of breath, swelling, the point they can only fit into 2 pairs of shoes. And that test isn't even given. It's a simple blood test. It's not a cardiac MRI. It's not going to cost them, thousands of dollars to give. And it just baffles my mind that, and it makes me angry too. I mean, my EF could have been 40. It could have been 45. It didn't have to be 20, right? And
mine didn't have to be 10.
And that's what makes me right. And that's what makes me just kind of get into a state of anger, because this is so preventable. And like you said, America has one of the highest maternity mortality rates, and it doesn't have to, right? And it doesn't freaking have to.
And that's why we are documenting this. That is
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
I am documenting interviews with women in Germany, the UK, Great Britain, Canada, and America. Now, the painful truth is based on American women.
Mhm.
That's why I have it for American women. And I'm glad that this was the approach, because with this documentation, it can really show that the women in America are depending on the BNP when their life is already at a threat, not
Yeah.
during pregnancy, whereas these other countries are being diagnosed during pregnancy and they're being treated. And I'm talking to them, and guess what? They don't have to pay for
They
health
don't have to
insurance
be.
because it's free.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I'm a proud American.
Yeah.
I love
Insurance
America.
drives me crazy, right?
But
Just
I'm
because
kind
of
of really
how screwed up it
disappointed.
is.
Yeah, I'm disappointed that they have failed women. And,
Yeah.
taking on leadership on this pregnancy movement and, really demanding change with showing these docuseries. Hopefully this will change for American women, that our death rate will be, lessened with just
Yeah.
women like us that are survivors, not the medical community, but the real painful truth of that this is an awful disease, but it's so preventable. It's so
Yeah.
easily preventable. And it's
And
based
honestly,
on a simple blood test.
even if it's not 100% preventable, we can catch EFs at 45 instead of 10,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Honestly, at this point in time, with technology, with tests, with just kind of education, there is no reason
No
why
excuse.
a mother should be diagnosed with an EF less than 45.
And have her death or,
Yeah.
experience something so horrible. And I thank you so much for your time. And just, I know we went
I'm sorry.
way over.
I think Eloise has met her time limit.
She has. And as I was going to say, we went over time, but that's okay. I mean, I don't put pressure on time. Oh, I love your nails. Let me see your nails.
Oh yeah. So every Sunday we have nail day.
I love it. She's being shy.
Uh-huh.
Oh, well, she's such a little putum. Well,
she is.
Enjoy, love her, bottle up those moments. And
It was so
again,
nice to meet you.
Thank you. It was really a pleasure talking with you. I enjoyed it. I feel like I have known you already longer than I have.
Same.
It's like that unspoken heart sister bond.
Very much so.
But thank you for sharing your story and just, touching upon certain, subjects that, where other women that are watching this, that are home and that are healthy and that want to have a baby or that are pregnant, they can hear it from, our mouths that that it can happen to you, know. And what would you like to say to those people that are watching? What would be your final message to maybe prevent or to help another woman?
I think just to listen to your bodies. We know ourselves better than anyone else, and we know when something is wrong too.
Mm-hmm.
So if your body is telling you something is wrong, speak up, go to the doctor, and insist on getting treatment.
Yeah,
I
self-advocacy,
think that's the most
definitely.
important thing that we can do for ourselves and for our new babies, right?
Absolutely. And that's unanimous. Everything that you just said is exactly what every woman, doesn't matter if she's in Canada or on the other side of the world in a different country, we all can agree that that's definitely that's the message. Self-advocacy, and to listen to yourself and your body and to speak up.
Okay.
Well, thank
All
you
right,
so
Lindsay.
much.
It was so nice to
So
officially meet you.
Yes, we'll definitely
Have
keep
a
in
nice
touch.
day.
You too.
Yes.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us and listening to the PPCM Fund podcast. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. PPCM's Painful Truth is made possible through the generous support of donors like you. Help us spread the awareness by donating at ppcmfund.com or click the link below to become a member through Ko-fi. Also, remember to join us every Monday and Friday for Mom Day Fitness. Have a great day.